What's up, everybody? Johnny RENZULLI here. Happy Friday. So we have some good news today out of Italy. Italy is now the first Western European country to be run by a populist government. That is great news. Now, these are baby steps, but this is great news. Now, what does populism mean? Well, populism means populism seeks to defend the interest and maximize the power of ordinary citizens through reform rather than revolution. Now, hold that thought because we're going to get back to that in a moment. So, back in March, the Italian people overwhelmingly voted for the Five Star Movement, which is a populist political party that its main objective is to take care of the Italian citizens and Italian people first. So they voted that party in. So that was back in March. So the president of Italy, Sergio Mattarella, gave the okay a few days ago for the Five Star Movement, this populist government, to form its cabinet and get things rolling and give it the okay. So it looked like it was going strong, going good, until the EU chief budget commissioner out of Germany, Günther Oettinger, found out that this new populist political party's chief economy minister was going to be none other than Paolo Savona. Now, Mr. Savona once described the adoption of the euro a historic error on Italy's part, and also described the single currency as a German cage, which is accurate because Germany is the largest country in the EU, and they basically control all the funds, who gets it, who don't. So when Mr. Oettinger found out that this new populist party in Italy, their economy minister was going to be Mr. Savona, he picked up his phone and called the president of Italy, Mr. Mattarella, and said, you got to put the kibosh on this new populist party that's forming in Italy. So they did. He did. He put the kibosh on it. So the populists, the people who voted for this new populist government, were up in arms and wanted the impeachment of Sergio Mattarella, the president of Italy. So what happened was the Five Star Movement, this populist political group, went back in and reworked their cabinet. And they did. And unfortunately, Mr. Savona is no longer going to be their economy minister because he talked about the EU and how they use their money, and they can't have that, the EU. So the EU is still in control, but the EU is shaking and they're crumbling little by little. I implore every country in the EU to leave it. The EU has an underlying agenda. Okay, now back to populism and what it means. Now, the last note was, I'll read it again. It says, populism seeks to defend the interest and maximizes its power of the ordinary citizen through reform rather than revolution. Now, see, what the EU wants is a one world order, one world government, and one world dictatorship. So what's the best way to create a revolution? The best way to create a revolution is to flood European countries with individuals who despise everything that the West stands for. So you have migrants and refugees flooding European countries from North Africa and the Middle East. Now, these people don't like women. They don't want women to have rights, gays to have rights, Jews to have rights, Christians to have rights. They don't want you to watch things on TV. They don't want you to do everything, anything. So what do? They flood European countries with these immigrants and migrants. Okay, then you have rapes happening, you have terrorist attacks happening, you have desecration of sacred artifacts happening, you have just violence across the board happening. Now, if you think that these individuals in these European countries are just going to lay back and say, sure, you can come into our country and do whatever you want, that's not going to have it. Your survival instinct is going to kick in, and eventually there will be a revolution, which is what the EU wants, because once that revolution starts, they come in, swoop in, and take over. So, populists, governments are the way to go in Europe to avoid that. So I implore every European country, I implore every European voter, when it's time to vote out of the EU, because they want one world dominance, one world dictatorship. That's what they want. It's happening in Europe. It's happening in the United States. You see people at each other's throats now. You're left. You're right. The bottom line is divide and conquer. It's happening in Europe. It's happening in the United States. It's like the San Andreas Fault. Okay, you have the main fault going through California, and then you have sub faults like the San Jacinto and the Elsinore and the Hayward. Well, you have different subs of the New World Order agenda all over the world, trying to achieve what they want: domination over us and a world where we have no freedoms. So, bravo to Italy. They swore in Giuseppe Conte. He's to be Italy's next premier, heading the country's first populist government. So, bravo, and I hope Mr. Giuseppe Conte does a great job. And once this populist government starts rolling in Italy, I hope other countries see this in Europe and take suit. Bravo. Baby steps, small steps. Also, switching gears of not too far, but Samantha Bee. Isn't it funny how Samantha Bee could talk about Ivanka Trump and degrade Ivanka Trump any way she wants? But nothing's done. Her show's still on the air. Turner, the cable network that carries it, oh, we'll make sure that doesn't happen again. Isn't that funny? Isn't that a double standard? Isn't it also a double standard that The View, I'm not even call them ladies, I'm going to call them creatures that are on it, ridicule and talk about people on a daily basis, and not only are they praised, the show The View is still on the air. I mean, the double standards are so ridiculous. You'd have to be a racehorse with blinders on not to see it, and I doubt human beings are walking around with blinders on. I mean, you know what? They are actually walking around with blinders on. So, yeah, it's just a disgrace, the double standards. And if you haven't signed the petition to free Tommy Robinson, please do so. You can find it online. So that's it. Bravo to Italy and bravo to Europe. And hopefully this will continue and bring down the horrible EU, which is just destroying Europe and destroying lives and destroying cultures. The EU is evil. The EU equals PU. PU. Time to go. Flush that toilet. Bye-bye.